32. I would say a solid. Okay, so I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say 20 teeth.
Okay, I was also gonna say 20 teeth.
Sure.
No molars, just canine.
I was
Just
just about to say that.
Wow.
I was like, it's the front 20 teeth.
Welcome to Recommendations Required, a podcast where two friends try to find their next obsession, and maybe so will you. I'm Ryan Mione.
I'm Glenn Brown.
And we are also joined with
I am Michael Anagnostopoulos.
Michael Anagnostopoulos, also known as Mike.
Sometimes you like speed through the intro. It feels like you're talking so fast. You can like
He just came back
luxuriate
from
in it
the
a little
bathroom.
bit, you know? Like, take your time.
I wanna,
like, we're not in
you
a
know,
rush here.
Okay, all right. I just think one of the podcasts that we enjoy is My Brother and Me, and they have just the
best opening song,
worst opening song, longest intro. Like, they just get into it, and I just want to get to the. Like, I want to get past the fat. I want to get it's the candy bar. I don't want to take the time opening the candy bar.
Sometimes it feels like you're an auctioneer and you're just like,
Yeah.
and we're going.
And we're going.
Yeah. It's just like, what
All right.
if they're not
I'm going to take it back. I'll do more of an NPR intro. Ready?
Okay, perfect. Yes.
All right, roll it back. Welcome to Recommendations Required, a podcast where two friends trying to find their next obsession, and maybe so will you. I'm Ryan Mione, joined with
Glenn Brown.
and we also have joining us
Mike Anagnostopoulos.
Mike. Thank you for joining us on this stormy day, and we're gonna get into your recommendation. This is boring.
See,
Who cares?
wasn't that great? Wasn't it soothing?
We'll put a
to
poll.
just
We'll put a
really-
poll at the bottom. If you want NPR Ryan
just
moving
really
forward,
enjoy it.
I usually keep him in a closet, locked away, but I can bring him out for the podcast if that's the desired voice that we want.
I'm genuinely curious to see what the vote is on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried. It's like, oh,
Okay.
well,
Okay,
NPR
so-
Ryan lives.
So you have an opener.
Okay, so there's openers that we have that are like, oh, something you don't like, or what would you do in this situation? And I have a weird brain that comes up with like really particular would you rather.
Yes.
And this is not a would you rather, but it's similar energy.
Your would you rather's are
This
legendary.
is a pretty wild one.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna throw out this situation, and you just tell me how you would respond to it. Okay?
Is this like a close your eyes dreamscape thing we're doing here?
Sure,
or-
you can close your eyes.
Okay,
Yeah, you can.
okay.
So you go to bed and you have the most vivid dream of your entire life. You are in the dream, basically sure that you are awake. And while you're there, you're like watching the president give a speech. And he like vaporizes with like purple and like rainbow energy, like nothing you've ever seen before. And he gets vaporized.
Okay.
And you get all these weird little details. It's chaos. It's crazy. You then wake up and you're like, that was the craziest dream ever.
Yeah.
You then, later in the day, president's giving a speech and the exact thing happens.
Yeah. Like you predicted the
You
future.
predicted the future. Okay. As you're like, let's say like a week goes by and because you're like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
They start coming out with details and you already know them before they come out. What do you do?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
He says nothing.
I say nothing. What do you mean? What do I do? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. The dream never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. What? You think I'm gonna end up some lab rat for the government? Absolutely nothing. What?
Mike?
I agree with that.
Okay.
statement.
Dude, like so the question is like, do you try and tell the government this knowledge that you have, and maybe there's even more details that they haven't let out yet that like let's say the dream is like several hours long.
Have you been observing how our government functions?
This is what I'm saying.
You think I'm going to tell them anything?
Yeah, I know.
The thing is, my response would be no, because they keep people in those institutions and they calibrate them, quote unquote, for like 10 years until they're like,
Yeah, no way. No one is knowing.
please don't come
about
for me,
this.
government.
My wife is the only one learning of these events.
Yeah, I asked Doug and Justin, and Doug was like, "Yeah, I tell the government." I'm like, "You have too much trust in the government. My man.
You're disappearing.
gone.
I'm sorry.
Where'd Doug
We're
go?
never seeing you
I don't know,
again.
man. He had a dream, and then it was gone.
He told me about this weird, wacky dream, and then he disappeared. The
He
next week.
disappeared forever. So we all say no.
Yeah. No.
The other one that popped up in my head at the same time that is on the totally opposite spectrum of,
Okay.
of the question
Okay.
is, here's another scenario.
Okay.
You walk into a bathroom, and there's only one urinal and one stall. The urinal's being taken up. You have to pee. So you go to the stall. Do you close the door or don't close the door?
You close the door.
in the stall? No, you're taking it. No, don't close the door.
He says no. I say close the door.
Oh, Mike.
You're
Mike
a man.
has unfiltered confidence.
Why wouldn't you close
Yeah,
the door?
what's the strategic benefit to not
Is it
closing
just
the
less
stall door?
energy?
You don't have to close the door because then you don't have to touch another surface that you then have to.
Imagine
It's a
this.
fair-
Imagine this, okay? You're in the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Let's imagine you walk into the bathroom and it's like the stall and the urinals are like on the left
Sure.
of the room and the sinks are on the right.
Sure.
You walk past the urinal, you see the stall door is open. So you walk into the stall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you are standing a foot behind someone taking a piss. Because you just rounded the stall door corner without really thinking about it because the stall door is open. There's obviously no one in there.
Do you
And
dive
suddenly
into stall doors?
Suddenly you are on top of someone.
Glenn
Are you not that, like,
Glenn
cautious
sprints full
enough?
speed into every stall
I mean, like,
with
if you're
reckless abandon. If it's closed, he
I'm
just
not like running in there, but like if the stall door is open, my brain says available, and I'm just walking in without
okay.
really
I don't
thinking
operate
about it.
like that. No,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
people are too untrustworthy. For all I know,
Because-
someone could be
because
taking
you-
a dump with the door
Because
open.
there's people in the
You
world
gotta be
like
careful.
you who leave the stall door
That's what I'm
open.
saying. So you walk into every stall going like this. Anyone home?
No, you poke
Hello?
it. You just kind of tap it if you
it's-
need to
but the
look.
stall-
It's wide open,
But
baby.
if your back is to the door and then it swings open and I just see someone peeing, like
I wouldn't be uncomfortable with that. If you need to
No.
see me peeing, you go ahead, right look.
I think
don't
it's
know.
just.
Oh,
I
man,
think
I'm
it's
closing
just.
the door.
I think it streamlines the process of figuring out the open spaces in the bathroom by taking the courtesy close.
So, I mean,
I
for
think
me,
you close the door. You close the door.
close the door, don't close the door. But I mean, like, as long as there aren't people in the world that are barreling into stalls with reckless abandon, like
As long as Glenn
closing
Brown
the
doesn't
stall-
have to go to the
As long
bathroom.
as there are people closing the stall door, then there's no one to barrel into them.
which is the most courteous opinion? You vote.
I'm just saying
Close the door.
better safe than
Better-
sorry. You
Sure.
you close that door.
Sure,
That's where I'm at.
I respect that. But
So-
please respect mine too.
You don't tell the government if you have a prophecy dream about the president dying.
And you close the stall
And the
door.
majority says close the door when
But
you go in.
so I'm glad we're split on one, and we can all agree on the
Yeah,
other.
Yeah. Good discourse.
I'm glad one person was wrong in this conversation. I'm glad at least one.
Wait,
person
what was your
wrong.
answer in the stall? You said close it.
Close it.
You said
100%.
close it.
Ryan's
Okay,
with it.
I said
Ryan's with
got
it.
it.
Because
Yeah.
my thought process is I don't care. Obviously, I'm fine peeing in a urinal, and I don't mind if someone gazes upon my back as I urinate. But like, I hate the feeling of walking into a stall, and I think there's almost because it can be encapsulated and it is someone's now domain.
You have the advantage.
I do. I don't want that advantage.
You don't want the advantage.
I don't, because the advantage of me going into a stall and someone peeing, unless I am actively trying to assassinate that person, I don't think that's a advantage I need in my day-to-day life.
Can we also talk about why stalls don't go all the way to the ground?
Are you George Costanza right now? 'Cause that's a George Costanza line.
Is
Yeah.
it? Well, okay, never mind. We're
He wanted
passing
in
that.
Yankee Stadium. He wanted all the stalls to go all the way to the floor.
Why wouldn't you?
They have that in Europe.
In Europe, all the stalls are like fully enclosed, no cracks. We have the technology. Why are we?
I think.
Why are
Do
we
you know what I think it
allowing
is? Okay,
Peepers.
hot take.
Yeah.
I think it's because it makes us go to the bathroom more efficiently. You are not comfortable you are comfortable in the fully enclosed stall and willing to take your time.
Yeah, do
if
it.
there's a gap. I'm not saying this is. I'm not trying to make an argument for.
Take your
I'm just
time.
saying
I
America
started
doesn't
this
value
episode.
your time.
Absolutely.
They want the most
okay.
efficient
They
people.
want efficiency.
Efficiency.
workers.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Don't spend your time in the bathroom scrolling. Like I see you. I know what you're doing. I see you scrolling. Come on.
Have you seen those slanted toilets? Where like Amazon workplaces will like slightly
This is
install
too
the toilets
depressing.
on a 5-degree angle, so you are like not parallel with the floor and
So
you
it
are
takes
uncomfortable.
effort to sit there.
It takes effort to sit there.
It's like a
Or-
wall sit.
Okay. Here's the other side of it.
God, America's horrible.
When you go to the bathroom, you also get an ab workout. Again, back to the efficiency.
like the efficiency thing.
Okay.
Just
I
saying.
think.
So
That or the corporate machines that we've given our life to are depressing and sad. Okay, let's talk about Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Gotta catch them all.
Yes. All right. We'll dive into this.
Let's escape from this reality. How do we want to? Okay, so little caveat to currently how we played Pokemon because I think that's like worth the conversation.
Yeah,
we played, a couple months ago.
Yeah. Not a couple months.
Probably 1 month exactly
One-
almost.
One month
ago, I
ago.
think.
Okay, we played 1 month ago. We played literally one game.
And we drafted.
We drafted.
Yeah.
Played a game. Then we went and played some Magic. And then today, month from that point, we played 4 games, which I feel like I have a way better idea.
We played a few more drafts, and then we played. Is it called
Standard?
Standard?
Standard and draft is what we played.
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, and then we
And we
played,
played
Standard.
Standard. I have been talking for a second, so I'm going to throw the ball at Glenn to have him kind of give your general opinion, and we can just kind of dive into this.
Yeah. So when we first did draft, my first impression was it seemed really simple, like which is kind of what I expected going in, right? Like I think it's aiming a little younger than Magic might be, or probably is. So it seemed overly simplified. But then, which I think is also true for Magic Draft too, though. Like when you do draft in Magic, it's much simpler than Standard or Commander, I think.
It's the entry level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So once we came back and played it today, and we did a little more draft, which was a good warm up. But then we played Standard, and I felt like the complexity started like flowing, and there's
absolutely.
like clearly put together systems that these decks are using, and I think the general tactics and strategy are a little toned down for Magic. They're a little more straightforward, but the complexity in the deck is still there.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
I would absolutely agree with that. And the thing is with Pokemon decks is the differences from like Magic, where we're used to like doing Commander. Like you don't know what's going to happen. In Pokemon, players are always like looking 2 turns ahead. Like, does this person have this card that's like played exclusively in Standard, and like it's probably like in 30% of decks, right? So you're always it's almost
more
like
predictable.
It's so much more predictable in my opinion, and I feel like Pioneer would be that way too. But it's just with Magic there are so many, or it's not Pioneer but Standard.
Standard, yeah.
So I would figure that it's almost similar in Standard, but the majority of what we play is Commander. So if we're comparing it to Commander in that way, then right, it's going to be a whole lot different in terms of right predictability and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. Where in the sense of that Pokemon purposely packages engines together, and do they? I'm not super familiar with Standard in the Magic the Gathering arena, but I'm pretty sure they package cards to work together in that way too.
System.
Yeah, I feel like they have precons for Standard and which stands for pre-constructed for Standard and for Commander, but I think Magic purposely tones them down and like doesn't make them super powerful so that you're encouraged to like mess with it and make it better.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same thing.
In my opinion, with Pokemon, it's really just like, hey, this is the prepackaged thing. And if you're a kind of brainiac who's like really trying to form your own deck, that's going to take a lot of thought, a long while, because the cards so clearly work together that it's like, this is the deck to use. there's really no straying from that if you want to win in standard.
Okay.
Is the thing.
There's not a whole lot of incentive to mess with it.
Right. The decks that I had prepared for today are my brain children.
Okay.
And whenever I go to play at tournaments at the card store, it's like, oh, Mike is playing. I get a free win or something like that. Because I don't want to say loathe. I don't enjoy playing the cookie cutter decks everybody else does to win is the thing. Go your own path.
I get that though.
Yeah.
It's like the individualist.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can like get a little boring to see the same stuff over and over.
That's the thing too, where I think that with like Magic the Gathering, you get so much more variety, like with what you were saying.
Sure,
they don't really build a specific engine where Pokemon does.
The thing I am noticing about the difference between like Pokemon and Magic that popped up in my head, and obviously like all I can do really is compare those two because those are the two systems that I know the best. It was like Magic is like building up a mech and like having to know how that mech works. And like there are simple mechs, but it's like mech is like, like a big robot. And it's like you're starting to get this thing going. You have to think about how these pieces work together. And Pokemon is like the engine's a race car. You have to move really, really fast, and you're both kind of. It felt less that we were fighting each other and more trying to get our engines online and like hit the racetrack first, because of I think how the card, like when you knock down a Pokemon, how you draw the card.
Yep.
The prize card, which I think is a really cool like mechanic. And
I did really like that mechanic. I think that's a cool way of doing it. And once again, it's a simplification, right? Like you don't you don't now need to track the damage that's being taken by you versus your creature or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's just
you
have so many cards here. Once you draw all those cards,
if we just played draft, I wouldn't like Pokemon at all.
Yep.
I would just be like, nah, one and done. I'm kind of over with this. After we played with the standard deck, I was like, ooh, okay, now there's some fun stuff. Now there's some cool things happening here. I'm enjoying this. The thing that I still didn't really experience with the standard deck that I do in almost every game of Magic is like the feeling of like what they call in like Magic, like going into the tank, where you have to really think out, how do I play this and how are they going to respond, and like all the reaction stuff.
Sure.
It feels very much like throw a punch, throw a punch, throw a punch, throw a punch, and whoever is punching the hardest wins, as opposed to like Magic where I feel like, ooh, there's a little dodging, there's a little parrying, there's a little like there's more of this dance to the game, which is like, I like Pokemon because it's not trying to just be Magic with Pokemon. It's really its own game, but I think I missed that feeling of like, let me go into the tank and think about how people are going to play things. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, I see the Pokemon he has on the board. I know once I take this thing out, he's going to either bring those things, and I'm sure there's like more nuance as you kind of go deeper into it. But I just felt like I wasn't able to like dig my teeth into it at the same level. It kind of felt like I'm going to do my thing and you're going to do your thing. And every once in a while we'll be able to respond to each other, but not really.
Yeah, it definitely is a slugfest in that way where, right, I mean, where you're saying you're going into the tank, you can choose not to have your active creatures, either Pokemon or, in Magic, right? You can choose them to take that damage directly. Right?
Yeah.
And then still kind of have that leeway to do whatever you want. So, in a sense, no, not in a sense. I agree with you where Pokemon is just it's a simplistic slugfest, and that's what it is.
Well, I don't think I would argue and say it's not a slugfest, because I think it does what it's trying to do, which is just this very fast pace. I'm going to play boom, boom, boom. And you just kind of watch these engines like take off. But again, it doesn't feel like chess, or it doesn't feel like you're fighting each other. It feels much more like a race.
Yep.
Where with Magic, even if I'm losing the race, I always feel like I can play a couple turns and I can get back in there.
There's some chaos too.
There's a little chaos. There feels more nuance, where I think Pokemon has a bit of this, like, you could argue the prize pool or the prize cards dynamic, which is basically every time you knock down a Pokemon, you draw a card out of this pool that you have, and once you draw all the cards, then you win the game.
Yep.
like that isn't any different than Magic with health points.
Yeah.
But I think the person winning gets a little bit of a boost, right? Like they're drawing more cards, which is like adding to the speed. I just had more of this feeling of playing Pokemon that's like we're in race cars as opposed to like Magic, which is like building these things to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and like dancing around each other sometimes and stuff like that. Yeah, which I feel like I feel like all three of us can obviously respect the strengths of both.
100%.
Like they're
Yes.
they're two different play styles for two different types of people.
Yep. Yeah.
If you have 10 minutes, you can play a Pokemon game.
Okay. So
If you have
that's the thing.
an hour,
Yeah.
you can maybe get half a Commander game in if you have 4 people.
I also think once again, like it seems like Pokemon is obviously reaching a younger audience than
Definitely.
Magic. So that might be a really good place for a younger person to get into games like this. As you start with Pokemon, it's a little more straightforward.
Yep.
It's a little bit more slugfest, and then you can like work into Magic or something like that where it starts to get more complex
and something
or chaotic.
Something you brought up earlier in the last episode too was like, I wonder if you're nostalgia, like you brought how nostalgia is a huge key to Pokemon.
Huge.
And something is like with this was there was a couple Pokemon I saw like, oh, I remember him from the show,
Sure.
but it didn't ignite the same feeling of like I had a friend's house that I would go to and they had a huge box of Magic and we would just look at the cards for like hours. None of us knew how to play.
Okay.
And we would like look at the card and look at the art and be like, this is really cool. And then when I learned Magic, it is not, because I'm not playing with the same cards, so it's not a direct nostalgia, but it's that same feeling of like I get to know how to play this. And I didn't feel that with Pokemon. I was like, ooh, I think nostalgia has won me over for Magic.
So you have nostalgia for Magic.
Yeah.
You have nostalgia for Pokemon.
Correct.
I have nostalgia for neither because
Yeah.
I didn't touch either
Oh.
of them until like now.
Not a blemish on you.
No, like
Not through card games.
I started
but
playing Magic like 6 months ago
yeah, when we started the podcast.
when we started the podcast, and I started playing Pokemon like right now. And
Yeah.
like I've like glanced off Magic like very, very briefly in the past, but never dove into it. And that was like even in like when I was like 16. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
even like when I was a kid. So I feel like all three of us are coming from very different perspectives.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Of having that nostalgia. Because for me, I don't have nostalgia for either. So like, I just see them both as games. You know, like,
Definitely.
I'm technically evaluating them without any of the.
From a distance, you have no
Yeah.
other attachment or
Yeah,
enjoyment.
yeah.
The cards
Yeah.
are just cards. For me, right, I am, like I said last time, I'm completely, utterly brainwashed by Pokemon. I started it at 6 years old,
there you go.
and it just really hasn't missed a beat since then. So I can name all of them. It's like, oh, I know this card. This artist had like drawn it really cool. I just want to collect the card. It's nice, and I just want to like talk with people who know about Pokemon. So it's like I continued to be in the community in that way. But right, coming from a position where you are not brainwashed, right? If you had to compare it to Magic and you're saying this is obviously a kid's game, or this is an introductory course to trading cards.
Yeah.
So that's the opinion that you both hold.
Yeah.
I think so.
no,
I think it can carry into adulthood and still be fun. I think just I would assume there are a lot of people who, as they grow into adulthood, are going to look for something more complex and maybe move to something else, but probably stick with it like you have in addition to what they're trying.
I think the other thing too was like when I played with the draft decks, it felt very much like my Pokemon just has to hit your Pokemon harder.
Yeah.
And then when I played the standard decks, I was like, ooh, okay, there's like a whole system that I see playing. And I think that can be what it can feel like for someone starting Magic, where it's like, okay, if I just have the bigger creature that hits you harder, you win. But then we all know that's not the case at all. Like
Right.
there's so many different creative ways. And I'm sure that's the case for Pokemon, where part of me wants to go like, ooh, I kind of want to figure out what other styles there are, what other win conditions there are, and then how like that might be something fun to dive into and get like one deck that I enjoy playing with and just whip that out maybe in between Magic games when you all kill me because I'm playing that dragon deck.
Yeah.
And like You go, oh, I'll play Pokemon with whoever just lost as well.
I feel like we didn't even really dabble in like weaknesses or what's the other one? Weaknesses
Resistance.
and resistances and stuff like that. Like, does that come up a lot?
So it can,
or is it kind of rare that those
totally.
pairings would hit?
Yeah, so like if you had so you were playing, Glenn was playing the Aerodactyl V-Star deck that I had made. So what you were effectively doing, you were hitting Ryan's psychic Pokemon for so much damage, the resistance didn't matter anyway. He was hitting a Lunatone, which is 90 health, with a fighting type that was dealing 240 damage. So Ryan in reality was taking resistive damage to the fighting type.
Oh,
Only 30 damage though. Still going to get knocked out first turn.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I didn't.
So when that can come into play though is like if you are fighting the thing in standard right now at the time of recording, it's almost going to be out of rotation. It's the Lugia deck. It's a normal colorless deck that can get ramped up turn 2 and start absolutely just destroying. If you have an anti-Lugia deck, which has seen some play in the meta, right? You are an electric player. Or lightning energy, right? So, and that will deal double damage to then that Lugia. So, right, if there's a deck in the meta that is like the one to take down, you're going to be playing the one that it's weak to, is the thing.
Yeah.
So, the meta in Pokemon is so simplistic in that way. And I think that also reflects in the deck building, right? Because the meta is so tight that you really don't have room to deck build. And that is something that Magic has so much of, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing.
Well, and I would argue too, I think that Magic has less than we think it does because we're playing in our meta group, which is the 3 of us.
It's true.
As opposed to going to standard competitions, which you are experiencing more on the Pokemon side. And something that I think I was feeling with Pokemon as I was drawing the cards and being like, okay, that thing just died or got knocked out because Pokemon don't die. We don't kill him.
That's right.
Just knocked out. He's just sleeping. And he's not breathing, but he's just sleeping. But I knew I was like, oh, that card goes down. Well, I got 3 more in there. And I forgot how much fun it is and how more impactful it is with a singleton format, which is you only have 1 card of each. Where in Commander, if I take that card out, he's done.
Is gone.
I don't have to. You got to figure out some other way to play, which I think is way more enjoyable for the persons who card gets destroyed. They have to now start thinking creatively, and is more enjoyable for the person destroying that card saying, "Yeah, I just threw a wrench in your, in your system, and your."
It feels more impactful on both ends.
Yeah. And I think like I would want to dive a little bit more into Pokemon and would be willing to kind of see like, I don't know, maybe even pull some cards that I'm more nostalgia about and see if that's something that would be worthwhile. Yeah. But I think I just felt a lack of impact with the games where but the thing is, if Glenn and I both had the game locked, that lack of impact would only last like 10 minutes. Because you're playing the game so fast, where it's kind of fine because it's more like, ooh, you beat me there, you drew better, that system really popped off there in that way, as opposed to Magic, which is like you're sitting down committing. If it doesn't pop off,
it's a slog.
It's that's a slog. That's an actual slog.
Pokemon is a quick yes or a quick no, which is
exactly
nice in both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
To a certain extent, right?
I do want to ask. So I feel like I am never going to get to the point with Magic where I feel like I know everything that's going on. Like there's just there's so many cards. There's just so many of them that no matter what, someone is going to pull out a deck where I haven't seen a single card in that thing. Yep. And it's just like, it'll just never happen. Do you ever feel like you've bumped up against that with Pokemon where it's like, oh, I know all the cards.
Never.
I know all the Pokemon. Like I'm never like, I see this and I'm like, yeah, okay, I know his whole deck, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Every release is, I think, maybe like every 4 to 6 months. And the number of cards released can fill 3-4 pages of like useful cards. So the meta is so tight that deck building is, I mean, if you're comparing deck building in Magic to Pokemon,
Yeah.
not a contest that Magic has. I mean, if you're playing like EDH or Pioneer, you have so much to choose from apart
Yeah.
from Standard.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what most people play. For Magic, you don't play for Standard. You play for
Yeah.
fun. You play
Yeah,
for
yeah.
EDH and everything like that. So if you're gonna sit down and try to build something with Pokemon, you are stuck with like
What you got?
what you got.
So,
Which
so
is
you're
not
saying,
a-
So you're saying yes, you like kind of just know everything.
Right. You know, so like if someone's playing like, oh, he's playing that deck.
No one's gonna sit down and be like, oh, I haven't seen that before.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, I know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, like, I don't feel like that's necessarily bad.
No,
because
no,
because
not-
I think
not
sometimes
bad.
like if you're, again, it's we're comparing Magic and Pokemon so much, but it's like at the end of the day, they're such different games.
Oh, yeah.
That they really shouldn't be compared. It's just
Yeah.
you've heard us talk about Magic at the beginning of this series
And it's
for
the
this
only
podcast.
thing. It's the only card
Yeah, it's
game
our,
I've played.
yeah, it's the only thing that we have like jumping off point from. But I think like being able to really know a deck and then also say, oh, I know that if I take that, I have to deal with that card. There's a little bit more of that play of like, again, we're race carring, but I know where your weak points are.
Right.
Yeah.
So there becomes also that nuance there that like, but it's funny because I've been actually going to Magic Night at our local game store and been such a blast. I think I've been 4 or 5 times now, and I've played maybe 3 or 4 games of Commander each time I go, and every time it's with 4 people, and I've never played the same deck. Like not even remotely close. Not like, oh, this deck is trying to do, like every deck is like,
Just so different.
what is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, and I love Commander because it's so like, watch me do this really ridiculous thing
Yeah.
or face plant trying.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and like,
yeah.
but I think there's like a beauty to like Pokemon where it's like, this thing is toned and ready to go, ready, set, go.
Which I recently tried to get a friend to start playing Magic because he loves board games and we play board games all the time and like heavy strategy board games, like loves it. And I was like, dude, you would love Magic. You got to get into Magic with me. And he was like, I hate the idea of not knowing what I'm going up against. He was like, there's too many cards. I hate the idea that I don't have all the
fair.
information. You know,
Yeah.
like he wants to understand all the strategies that are happening, all the possibilities
Just read
that can
them.
play
Just
out.
read all the cards.
Exactly.
I don't go with these.
So what I'm saying is maybe he's a type of person that would enjoy Pokemon
Yeah.
way more than
100%.
Magic because it is so much tighter and he knows what to expect and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
That's true. I think the one downfall about Pokemon is that you know what's going to happen next in a deck. And right, if you're losing, it's just like, all right, kill me already.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I
You
know
just
I
want it to
lose.
be over.
there is
Yeah.
a little bit with like, and
Same with Magic.
same with Magic, but like I feel like what's fun with Commander is like we're gonna play some tonight, and you're gonna be playing this new deck. If you just start destroying me, and you have like the next 3 cards to like really bury me, I'm almost like, ooh,
yeah,
let's see how much you destroy me.
'Cause-
Where
yeah.
Pokemon's like, I know the next 3 turns I'm not gonna win.
Yep.
Let's just like, can I just hit the skip button? Can I just scoop up and call it?
People do that at tournaments. They're just like, I'm out.
resigning?
Yeah, you're
you
allowed
just-
to red flag and just say like,
Just
hey, take your game,
yeah,
man.
you got it.
So
Okay, interesting.
which is fine, right? And I do that a lot to say like, just let's hang
'Cause-
out afterwards. and-
Yeah, because I feel like in Magic you almost never do that because for all you know you're gonna draw.
It happens. It happens
Yeah.
a decent amount.
in when we're playing EDH at least, it very rarely are we gonna just call a game because someone could draw like a board wipe, especially if it's not just 2 people. If you have 3 or 4,
Yeah.
then you have a lot more dynamics going along where
You can politic your way out of it.
like
You
this
can-
person's really crushing. Let's all gang up on him.
Yep.
You know, so like I feel like we've never called a game.
But the other thing is like you're playing the Commander's goal is not to win. It's to really like watch these decks come online
Yeah.
and do cool stuff.
Yeah.
Where Pokemon, like if you and I are playing Pioneer, I'm going to scoop. If you're like have, 10 trample with 30-30. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, it's game. We're done.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I scooped one time in Commander.
This is a new term to me. Scooped.
It's like you scoop up your
cards and
You're
call
done.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
There's also a card in Pokemon called Scoop Up Net. If you have only one basic Pokemon on your field and you use the Scoop Up Net,
Yeah.
you scoop up your last Pokemon on the field
And you lose.
self-immolate. You lose. So like you can immediately
Why
lose
would-
turn
why
one
would you-
if you'd like to.
Why would you have a card that does that?
Because you're
It's
salty and you don't want to. You're like, like he
It's-
didn't beat me. I beat myself.
right. I mean, some people
But
deck
why-
themselves
why
out
would you-
because they don't want to have other people to have a win, right? So like if you're playing the Aerodactyl deck and
That's
you have like
so
draw power,
salty.
Yeah.
That's
you
so
can be very
gross.
salty. People do that at the store. Not
thanks.
gonna name names.
Well, I mean, you
but
still
people-
lose.
Do it.
You still lose.
Name them.
But
Call
it's
them
not-
out on this platform.
But it's not like a solid win.
It's not a solid win for them. It's like I didn't give them the satisfaction of
See,
that.
that's the thing.
God,
I think
that's
that's.
annoying.
I think that like
I'm
at the
calling
core.
you out.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
I think that's the other thing is like, this game is a game to play to win. Like, and you and I experienced a little bit of that with like Pioneer, and I've like,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, we start playing, you're like, ooh, he has that card. I'm gonna put this card just to beat him. I don't really put
okay.
any cards in my Commander deck to screw over one of your decks.
Correct.
Huge.
Yeah.
Like-
we're always picking the most fun cards.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's hard with specifically you and I because we get really competitive
We
in
do,
Commander.
yes.
And there was it doesn't matter. There was just like there was one night where I was really salty, and then there was another night where I was like I brought a deck and none of you guys like had too much fun with it.
No.
No. But I just think like the thing though is like at the same time I was having fun and it was cool. I'm sure to some levels like how is this deck doing the stuff that it's doing?
Yeah. Like even if I'm getting crushed, I'm having fun watching your deck crush.
And I think to me, it's like I am at the age where I want to play games that are fun even when I lose.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to get into a game that's like highly competitive, like, you know, Magic too, standard Magic, Pioneer, the modern, like all these formats of Magic are really can get really competitive, and it's to specifically beat you. And I think Pokemon comes in that. It's the same reason with Yu-Gi-Oh. Like everything I know about Yu-Gi-Oh is that like there's turn one wins. Like it's a ton of turn one wins. I'm like that's just not
What?
fun.
Yeah.
Like
Have you
that's
ever
not
seen
a.
Yu-Gi-Oh gameplay?
It's just
No.
it's
No?
well,
We'll show you
Yeah,
some.
we'll show you some. It's like so boring.
I
I didn't feel that with Pokemon. Like I didn't feel like it was that bad. But there's again that piece of like race to the finish.
Yeah.
I did see a TikTok live stream of two people playing Yu-Gi-Oh against each other, and they were like in separate rooms, like live streaming their fight, and they had like the arm,
The dual disc? The dual disc? Yeah.
like on their arm where they're like putting cards on this
Whoa.
like gauntlet thing, and
Kind
I'm
of
like,
a LARP thing.
man, I
exactly.
wish I had the guts to just be live streaming this stuff.
I mean,
Or
So
the
good.
unawareness.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
There were so many people watching it though and loving
yeah.
it. I was like, I'm so here for people just
Yep.
doing it. I love it.
If you were given a Yu-Gi-Oh standard deck though, and like I told you we're playing Yu-Gi-Oh today, and I gave you a standard Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Those cards are like the terms of service to some social media platform
Dude,
that you have to read.
They're so long. You
You
think
need to read
Magic
the
cards?
novels.
really?
Yeah, you
Oh,
think
yeah.
Magic cards are long? We should show you some of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. They are like books. It's insane.
Oh,
They
I
make
didn't
Magic
know
cards
that.
look like I don't know, like small texts.
Like-
you know,
like Pokemon
like
cards.
yeah, like Pokemon. honestly.
Effectively.
Yeah,
Effectively.
seriously. So
Well, that's
I'm-
crazy.
I'm gonna wrap this part of the podcast up,
yeah.
but I want to generally just throw this out there. I really did enjoy Pokemon.
I did
and
too.
there is a
Yeah.
part of me that
Good game.
would touch it, like pick it up again and play. There's a piece of me that's like, I just don't know if my ADHD is gonna lock onto it, but it's something in the back burner that I know if for whatever reason I'm like, I need to kind of I want to dive deep
Dive
into
into a
something.
new
I
thing.
feel like Pokemon could be something fun, but I'd have to play with you. I'd have to play with people who want to keep it casual.
I think, yeah, and I think I also really enjoyed it. I think it's a well constructed game.
Yeah,
it is fun.
really well constructed.
I think it has things that are better than Magic, and Magic has better than it, and stuff like that. But I think I said this in the previous episode or maybe when we were just chatting. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like I'm probably just gonna focus on Magic for a while, just to like live in that space for a bit, and then like hop into Pokemon later. Like I feel like I can't do both at the same time for some reason because of my ADHD hyperfixation. But I also feel like the tough part is I know so much more people that are into Magic, so I feel good
It's all about the
investing
community.
time and money into it because I know I'm going to get use out of it. I think you're the only person I know who plays Pokemon. So
And
I'm
if you
like,
had a deck, if we're playing and you brought 2 decks, I would play with you in a heartbeat.
oh yeah, definitely.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's one of those things that's just like I would play Pokemon. I enjoyed playing it. Is it going to be my next obsession? Probably not. But if someone had 2 Pokemon decks and wanted to play, I'm there.
down.
I'm
Yeah,
down.
Let's go.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought it was a
with
great
you.
recommendation. Mike,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for
for
coming on the podcast. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I'm so humbled that you guys took a recommendation, ran with it, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad you had some fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad we really gave it the time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I'm glad we kept playing.
Quick question.
Sure.
I think this needs to be the new thing that we ask our guests.
Okay.
What scale should we use to rate
this-
things?
okay.
We, for the love of God, cannot.
We keep
think.
using a different scale like every week.
I
like,
think we should basically keep using Mike's scale until the next
the
person,
guest and
then
they
the
just
next
set a
guest,
new
and
scale.
they
I
say-
kind of like that.
Oh, interesting.
So, Mike,
yeah,
a
what's
scale?
yeah,
like,
it can be
obviously-
as simple as 1 to 10.
Yeah,
it
you
can
can
be
go 1
as
to
like
10.
abstract as you want. Like the thing that sucks is like if someone gives us one that's really bad, we gotta find a
wait.
guest like quick.
get it rotated out. Yeah.
All right.
It could be like-
if I just thought of something right now for
Do it.
whatever
Just
reason.
throw it out.
So you're gonna rate things out of however many teeth there are on their human head, which I think is 32.
Okay,
So
so
you're gonna rate
1 out of 32.
something out of 32, right?
So one,
and you have
1
to pick
to 32 teeth.
and you have to pick. Oh, like this was like 4 teeth, but they were molars.
But they're all
you know. I don't know why I thought of that,
We
but
need
that
to
is what
guess
it
next
is.
time.
guess next
We
week.
need to guess next time this podcast. Okay, so I would give Pokemon 32. I would say a solid. Okay, so I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say 20 teeth,
Okay, I was also gonna say
20 teeth,
Sure.
no molars, just canine.
I was
Just
just about to say that. I was like, it's the front 20 teeth, you know? It's just you're biting into it real
This is the
quick,
dumbest
but
thing
you're
I've
not, you're
ever
not
heard.
chewing on it very much.
Oh my gosh, you picked the same teeth rating as me.
God, I hate us.
Me and you hate
I
me
think okay.
for picking. Yeah.
So I'm gonna set this rule right now.
Okay.
Every guest creates our new rating scale.
Okay.
At the end of the year, we rate the rating scales.
Okay.
I'm not even a dentist, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
I don't know why I picked
Yeah,
that.
you had the.
I think it's
top
because of the
your dome.
skull on my shirt. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm wearing a
you
skull
were counting
shirt.
all the
that's what
teeth
you're
on your
thinking.
Right.
MCR.
I was gonna say like it could be like actors, or like the worst actor you can think of. To the
That
best
is a good
actor you can
scale.
think of, and then we have to do actors or something like
You
that.
should have
but
been the guest.
I like teeth.
Okay, teeth are
Teeth
good
is
too.
great.
Good.
Yeah.
Teeth are
I knew
good.
you were gonna pull some abstract idea, and I love it.
I love it.
But I mean, you pulled a great metaphor out of your back pocket because of it.
Yeah,
because
well,
you're
Ryan
biting
stole
into it.
before I could even say.
Well, you both agreed. I mean, that's kind of wild.
It's amazing.
Great minds think alike,
Maybe
man.
it's the best scale ever. All right, Mike. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you
Thanks
for
for
being
the
on.
Gentlemen, thank you.
recommendation. We definitely will need you to come back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
definitely have some
So,
ideas.
yeah.
Get thinking.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for coming.
Gentlemen.
See you guys on the flip.
See you. And we're back. 2 weeks later. So if you're wondering why it is currently daytime outside and we're wearing different clothes, it's because we actually recorded the first half of the episode. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
So
Thereabouts.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're back.
But we're back.
And you are going to recommend me something.
I am going to recommend you something. But this is kind of this isn't like a big thing that I'm gonna throw at you or anything. It's a pretty simple, straightforward suggestion.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Notion? Please tell me you haven't used Notion before.
Glenn.
Yeah.
I have, if you look at my search history,
Yeah.
it's like Notion. Is
Yeah.
Notion worth it? On Reddit, looking up at Notion, and I was this close to doing it.
Yes.
I was this close, but I
I
didn't
beat
do
you?
it.
I beat you to
You
it.
beat me to it.
Yes. Okay. I'm recommending Notion.
Okay. I think I
Yes.
severely need this thing.
It's amazing. I love it.
Is it? It's just okay. For people who don't know what
Yeah, yeah.
Notion is, also Notion. If you want to,
Hey, if you want to kick some money,
kick us some money.
hey.
I'm sure there's 4 other people that would use it.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get you 4 more users.
We'll
How's
have 4
that?
more users. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So just kind of walking into Notion, we've dabbled with something called ClickUp.
ClickUp.
I know a lot of people have used like Trello.
Asana.
Yeah. And it's kind of a lot of these things are kind of like task management things, right? Whether it's personal, like you're just trying to keep the things you're doing in your head, or business related, either one. But I noticed you did mention is Notion worth it? What did you mean by that?
There's a monthly payment.
It is free. So Notion employs the freemium model, which means they have a free model and they have a premium model.
Continue.
Sure. Which I think a lot of
ClickUp
things.
does as
ClickUp
well,
uses that. Trello uses that. A lot of things use it.
I like it because it does the whole like use it as limited as you can until you need to go past it. It gets really problematic for me when it's like your note is too long. You got to pay $5 a month now to like have 2 more sentences. And it's like they just keep tagging.
So
on them.
this has been my problem in the past. I'm going to use ClickUp as an example.
Go for it.
The most recent thing I've used is you showed me ClickUp.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed using it, and I'm like still down to be using that for like we use it for the podcast to keep things straight. I think it works perfectly for what we're doing.
Yeah.
But like I really love Gantt charts. For people who don't know what a Gantt chart is, it's kind of like a spreadsheet style calendar is like the combo there.
Well, it's based off of priority and dependencies.
Yes.
So if like we can't edit this podcast until we record it.
Yeah.
Which that's the reason I went to ClickUp.
Yes.
Is because they're
and I loved that in ClickUp until we hit a paywall.
Yes.
Of the worst thing was it wasn't that you can't use Gantt chart unless you pay for premium. Okay, I understand that you have to have features behind a paywall in order to make money. But the thing ClickUp did that kind of annoyed me was you can use the Gantt chart for 100 views.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
it rips it from
That's
you.
what I'm saying. That's like where
I hated it.
I've really been liking ClickUp, and it's something that I've even paid certain monthly things, and like. There's this thing called Scrum where you have sprint points. I mean, we could have a whole episode on productivity systems, and like for me, I'm always trying to find something that works for my brain, and like, but it was like you can only have 100 sprint points. I'm like, well, that's stupid because
it's annoying. But now that I've compared it to ClickUp, I need you to wipe your mind because Notion is very different.
Because maybe. My perspective of Notion is that it uses AI to create schedules.
You can use AI.
Okay.
So I, from what I've experienced, I'm a new user of Notion. So I haven't
this is a new fixation.
Plumbed the depths of everything it has to offer, but at face value of what I've dove into so far, I'm in love with it. It's so good.
Okay.
So what Notion does kind of differently is it's much more freeing. It's you don't even need to have the structure that we have in place. Like ClickUp will have like you have these workspaces, and inside those workspaces you have projects, inside those you have sprints, and inside those you have tasks. You have this framework
that's already
that's there for you. And
there's a name for it.
Your projects and tasks need to fit inside this framework, right?
Hierarchy? No.
Sure.
Sorry.
But Notion is like, hey, you create the framework. It's like you can have like 100 layers deep if you want of pages, you know? Like right now in my Notion, I have home, personal, work, 3D printing. Like I have all these sections of my life. And then inside those, I have like for personal, I have my anime list, my reading list, my daily tasks and habits, and then like inside the anime list, like I can dive into the anime list and I have all the animes that I've watched ranked, and I can click on those and it'll pull me to a separate page for that anime. Like you can go as deep as you want to, or as shallow as you'd like if you don't want it to be that deep. But it's also very aesthetically driven.
I like that.
So there's like a big cover photo that you can resize to whatever you want. You can plug in these widgets that like make it look completely different. Like if you want to create, it's almost like creating your own personal homepage for whatever kind of frame of mind you're in, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So like if I was going to sit at my computer and I'm going to focus on my 3D printing business, right?
Yeah.
I can pull up the page for my 3D printing, and I can have like my task board and like current orders or like other stuff that's going on. But I can also have like a home page for all those things where it's going to pull up like, here's the tasks that are due today that you need to do. Here's like what time it is. You can, they have like nice widgets you can plug in where it's like, okay, here's a 30-minute timer. I just need to plug in for 30 minutes and I'm not stopping until this timer's up. And you just hit that timer and start going.
It seems, because ClickUp, Asana, Trello, Monday is another one. They all feel very team oriented.
Yeah.
What you're explaining sounds more individualistic. Is that the case?
So from what I've experienced, it seems much more oriented toward a solo person.
Okay.
I would say I haven't really tapped into a lot of like group sharing things, but I know that they're there.
Okay.
Like I get emails updating me on like new Notion features, like every week they're like plugging in new stuff and giving you new abilities to do in the free version. So I haven't like worked with someone in Notion, but I know it's capable. Like I've sent my anime list to people and they can like pull it up in Notion and view my pages that I've created and stuff like that.
I want to take a break for a second. Why do you have a list of animes?
Why wouldn't I have a list of animes?
Do you have a list of like movies and TV shows and books too?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I have like lists for all these things that like I have rankings
too much work, man.
And like what I've finished, what's in progress. And like whenever someone gives me a recommendation, I can just pull it up in there, write it down, and I'm good to go.
So you'll never run out of recommendations because you have a list.
Dude, that list is like 50 anime long. I've only watched like 10 of them.
Oh, okay. So you haven't watched all of these.
No. These are just
I gotta get to them.
Someone has recommended it to me for some reason at some point.
So Glenn's the person that you're like, oh, you should do this thing. You will actually write down as opposed to, yeah, thanks, okay.
Oh,
and
no,
then
I write it down, yeah.
That's good. I need to do that because I actually want to watch the things. And then I'm like...
Another great thing about Notion though is because it's so aesthetically driven, they've made it work really well on desktop, on your phone, and on a tablet.
That's the thing about ClickUp. The phone app is trash. It's useless.
Usually one of those apps will kind of focus in on one. Where like ClickUp, it kind of makes sense to be on desktop.
Yeah,
a majority of the time,
exactly.
You know, that's kind of the workspace you're going to be in.
You get a bird's eye view on the app.
But like Notion is like really good, I'd say, across all three. So if you're sitting at your desk and you can pull up a desktop application, like you don't have to go on the web and pull it up. You pull up the desktop application and like you're in it. Or like I've seen a lot of people like taking an iPad and like mounting it like in their bedroom
just for
Notion and like having a lot of people started doing this of like a daily habit tracker where they kind of like I think it's a lot of people with like ADHD and stuff like that say that it helps to turn their life into a game, almost like you're trying to get experience points. So they'll have like
okay, hold on, wait,
we
need to pause this for a second.
Okay.
So I found out last year that I have ADHD, which surprised no one except for me. But there's a lot of aspects of ADHD that I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that was part of it. And so it's been a deep dive into figuring out systems and medication and habits and all these things, right? So one of the things was like, I am super, super forgetful. Like, you know, it just of little things, of big things, it doesn't matter. And so trying to find a to-do list or like a system that works for me is really big. But a problem about it is that it usually has to be novel, which like the idea of almost like the fact that it's a new thing gets me excited to stay on track. And so it's like ClickUp has worked, but it's kind of been this ebb and flow. And like for me, ClickUp was like it worked, but like it was just sluggish. It's slow.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of looking into Notion, and then I was on Reddit, and this guy was like, "You should check out this." And it's a RPG to-do list.
Okay.
And it literally gives you experience points, and you get equipment, and I hate it. It's so bad.
You hate it?
I hate it.
Why do you hate it?
I think it just because I don't know. There's just this like I want more from it. Like it's very like if I showed you it, it's like it's literally just hit the check mark and then your guy gets more XP.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, like I have to be able to do something with this. It can't just be.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I want there to be
Yeah.
more. And then it's also like the system itself is bad at doing to-do lists.
Oh, okay.
So it's like,
Yeah.
which if you are an app developer, I think that'd be a really fun like
That
thing to
would be a
actually
fun
do
one.
well.
Okay, I did see that they just came out with a game that's like an FMV game where you're like talking to someone.
FMV.
I don't even know what that stands for, but I just know the genre of video game is
Okay.
it's more like storytelling based, and you're
Okay.
like reading script that you're like having
yeah,
conversations. It's
okay.
not like action or anything.
Like
Usually
a
it's like
text-based
2D
kind of game.
Like I think Walking Dead might be kind of an FMV game. It's more narrative
okay.
driven.
Okay,
There's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
actual gameplay to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's more like an interactive movie ish.
Yep.
I saw someone that apparently on Steam you can get a game that is like this game, but it's asking you questions about your life and your finances, and by the end of the game, it has your taxes prepared for you.
That's so smart.
I forgot about the name of this game, and I'm sorry. Maybe we can
so
put it in the show notes or
stupid.
something. But I was like, that's the
so-
smartest and stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh. That's kind of like the game. There was this app that I downloaded where it was a zombie apocalypse game, but it was a running app.
Okay,
And like you had
so
to run
Yeah.
in order to collect supplies.
Yep.
Which I think is great, but like I don't know, it's like they're also never well made.
No, I have no idea how
But
this
that's
game
hilarious. That's
functions, but I
amazing.
just heard about it. I thought it was funny.
But I was just saying habits and kind of
Yeah, so-
you know like
So like I have this
Side
habit
quests.
tracker, and a lot of people have been adopting it because like I kind of like it. I still kind of fall off of it and forget to check it, but I think that's because it's not always right in front of me. I
Yeah.
almost kind of want an iPad just
Yeah.
to like get this set up. But basically, like you're checking off. You set up what you want your daily
yeah.
habits to be, and you're checking them off like at the end of every day when you're going to bed or something. But you can like set up any sort of visual for that you want. Like you can set up a bar graph of like, here's how many habits I did this day. And you can
Yeah.
like visually see your growth, you know?
Yeah.
Like you'll see this graph like start to tick up as you're ticking off all of these things, and you can like add more habits that you want to employ and stuff like that. So like gives some tangible like visual response to like keeping up with those
Yeah.
habits, which I feel like really works for me.
100%.
So yeah, and but the really cool thing is since it's free, there's a lot of people, or at least the model I'm using. I'm not sure what the upgraded model gets you. So
Okay.
far, I've never run into something where it's like, oh, you don't have this because you don't
Okay.
pay for it. Nothing has ever popped up and said, oh, you need to pay for this.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing is a lot of people are just creating plugins for Notion, tons and tons of plugins, or like formats, or like whatever you
Okay.
want. Like I know there's like whole Etsy stores where it's just Notion templates, and you can like pay $3
That's
and you
amazing.
get a Notion template.
Yeah.
But in Notion, you can almost like code the website in Notion.
Yeah.
So like if I've seen a really cool thing where people make travel pages where it's like, I'm planning this vacation. Here's all my reservations. Here's all the destinations I want to go. You can embed Google Maps into the Notions page. So it like pulls up a Google map of where all your destinations are and stuff like that. You can code in, or even like, you can like code in like website buttons almost, where it's like, oh, when I press this button on my iPad, it'll do certain things in Notion.
There's
and
like
stuff
automation.
Like that.
that
Yeah, you can
create.
like embed your own automation in it. Like it's
boy.
just the freedom is crazy.
Yeah.
I'd say the only downside to that is it might seem very overwhelming to people.
Well, for me, I think I'm more worried of how deep I'm gonna go into it.
Yeah. I'd say there are types of people who like just want this framework built for them and they just want to start using it right away. And I think that's definitely a ClickUp route. Versus there are people who want that freedom to do anything they want, and they don't care if they dump hours and hours like creating this space for themselves because it might be worth it for them. Then like Notion is kind of the way to go. I think.
I think I'm hopeful but hesitant because I'm like I'm not I'm not enjoying ClickUp as it's feeling limited to me.
Okay.
So like everything you're explaining, I'm like, ooh, Notion. This sounds like, but then I'm like, okay, it's another productivity program. It might be the one,
which
right? Like I'm open to that idea, and I'm hopeful that it will work for me even for the small amount of time that I can stay on a single habit for more, like a couple months or whatever. But
when I was thinking of suggesting it, the first thing that popped into my mind was how we literally had a conversation in the anti-time management episode about skipping from one time management thing to the next, and I'm like, oh, this is definitely just the next time management thing. But I think it has enough to it that I thought it warranted the recommendation.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of good stuff about it, and I think Justin uses it, my brother. So that might I'd be interested, and he does coding. I would be interested to kind of hear what he thinks about it too.
I'm really curious to actually get into more of like the teamwork compatibility because I haven't tried it.
That's the big thing for me is I love, I like ClickUp and I do like Trello, but like I think I need a system, and this is where I'm like interested in Notion because I think I need a system that works really well by myself that can then easily be given to other people.
Yeah.
Because ClickUp is like purely like I can feel it go like I need this to be a larger team, or I need this to be more individual, and it feels like it doesn't do both well. But it sounds like what you're explaining, Notion is so customizable that it's actually like I can have it be whatever I want it to be. So if that's the case, that would be amazing.
Yeah, once you do get it like set up and stuff, I'd be curious to see if we can like share pages and kind of test the waters on that a little bit. But yeah, I think I don't know if like we got kind of a good setup going in ClickUp. I don't know if we'll eventually move to Notion at all with the podcast and stuff. We'll see whether you like it enough or not. But it does seem right. I'm already thinking of like the things we can do with it. We're like, okay, we have a page for each episode. And like in that we can just like embed links to all the things we talked about. Like we talked about this book. Here's the link right to that book on Goodreads and what it's about and the rating.
Could you do anything with Notion where it's almost like a page people could follow? Can you turn it into almost a social media or like its own website?
I don't know. Because I think I shared...
This episode comes out only on Notion for some reason. We find out a way to...
I shared my anime list with my sister. I like sent her my Notion page because she downloaded Notion and started using it.
And I'm assuming you could say like, hey, you can only read, you can't edit. So I wonder if it's...
It gave me that option. So... I mean, I would imagine
just post
you
on, like,
could
Discord or something.
Yeah, you could like post a Notion page because it is also just a website that you can just go to.
Yeah. Is it browser based or
you can use it in the browser or you can download the desktop app?
Yeah.
And
good.
have an application for it, which I always prefer very much app. Enjoy. Yeah, I have it like auto launch on startup now because I love it.
Okay. I'm excited to try it. I really am. I think I won't. I'll either come in saying here's why I couldn't buy into it next episode, or here's why I'm completely obsessed and why I haven't done any other work other than create a bunch of notes.
It'll be super hot or cold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, well, I don't think I'll hate it because I was even looking at doing it. And you haven't done any of the AI stuff because that was something I was interested because my schedule is so crazy and so like.
I did. So like I said, they send me emails all the time about like updates they're doing. And I know they just sent me an email about like AI incorporation and how like, I think one of it was like AI assistant where it literally looks at all your tasks,
how long
and all
it
your
takes,
calendar things,
schedules
and like schedules your entire week for you,
which
and
like
stuff, which
for
is wild.
For you, it might not be as helpful. I mean, to a certain level, like on a weekend, it might be helpful, but you have like a full-time job. For me, that sounds amazing because it's like I have to do accounting and I have to do editing and coloring and I have to reach out for sales. So I have all these random tasks and then to think about how do I fit all of that in?
And I'm not sure about this, but I was trying to scrub through the video pretty quickly on what they had in there, but I think you could also like set like types of tasks and categories, like accounting versus video editing. And you can have like, okay, this is like kind of like a more mundane task, and here's a creative task. You can tell the AI, hey, I want all my mundane tasks to be right away in the morning because I'm not that creative like when I'm waking up. But then as soon as noon hits, then load me with the creative task because I'm like up for that now, you know. And you can like tell it to like do that too, which is interesting.
Okay. I'm excited.
But yeah.
I'm excited.
I've been having fun with it.
Okay.
I wanna see what you think of it too. I'll wrap us up.
All right.
Yeah. So kind of plugs, but for our own podcast. So yeah. YouTube. We're up there.
Yes, sir.
I think YouTube just did some changes with how podcasts are structured on there. So
by that point, I mean, it'll be like 2 months.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't know. Hopefully, maybe people let us know how that works. But yeah, I tried restructuring it a bit. But YouTube's up there. We're on TikTok. The email is recommendationsrequired@gmail.com. Send us suggestions there.
One thing that I'm going to throw out that I don't think maybe we've talked about this, I'm not sure. I think it'd be cool to do something like, obviously, if you guys like the show, we really would love if you would share it with people. Like, that's just the best way to grow up, period.
Yeah.
Like, social media is important, but at the end of the day, like, word of mouth is the way to go. But I'm thinking it would be interesting to do some sort of promotion for recommendations required. I have a couple ideas.
Oh, really?
But we'll have to, we'll get into the think tank about
save them? Okay.
Yeah. So just be on the lookout for that.
Okay. That sounds great.
Yeah, we'll chat about that. So yeah, YouTube, TikTok.
Yeah, YouTube, TikTok. I mean, we're also
Discord, email.
Instagram. Yeah, all you know where to find us. All the stuff.
All right. This is Ryan signing off.
This is Glenn signing off,
and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Take care.